right. Thanks so much, Boria. Thanks again for having me, too. This is always so much fun, and it's great to connect with you all to hear from your experiences and also share a bit of my own. Today will be a lot of fun. This is going to be an experimental experience here, as are most things in the NFT scene, as you well know. To start off, my name is Kirk, or UntitledXYZ. I'm an artist and architect. I have a background in architecture and have been in the crypto scene since 2016 and doing kind of the architecture thing for a little while. So, yeah, this is a really, really exciting time to be in the NFT space, whatever whatever that phrase means, because I think there are just so many tools and resources now that really did not exist. Even at the beginning of the very first cohort that we did, I looked at the slides, and it's like everything has transformed since then. That's only been maybe, I don't even know, a year or two since that started. So time moves fast in the virtual realm, and we do our best to keep up. Um, but today will be slideless. We're going to be going into a virtual scene. You're welcome to join me and walk around if your computer can handle it, or you can just watch through the video here. But I'm going to share that link, and let's do this. Share my screen. All right. So can you see me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so here's the link here. You're welcome to hop in as well. This is a virtual world called HyperFi. And for the purposes of this tutorial here, or excursion, I'm going to be Orion, this guy here. Oh, look, we have some visitors. Wonderful. So this will be fun. I think we're going to start off with some simple things. This will be a mix of kind of a description of what I do and also how to use virtual worlds, what they're good for, why I think they're relevant for architecture and virtual and digital art. To me, this is, as you can see, this is a blank canvas. There are so many things you can do in the quote unquote metaverse. But to start, it's always good to, if you type \dance in the prompt, you can all just dance, and that's nice. If you want to fly, you can click the space bar twice, and you can surf around. This is so funny. I wish I had this for previous classes because slides are so 2022. We're in 2023 now, so we have to go with the best of the resources we have to experience all of these things. So this is a virtual world app called HyperFi. HyperFi is one of many virtual world or metaverse applications, and I think everyone's going to give you a very, very different interpretation or definition of what the metaverse is. I think it totally depends on your discipline, and it depends on how you interact, ultimately how you interact with the web. To me, I feel like the metaverse, quote unquote metaverse, is a spatial internet or spatial web experience. So to me, this is a website. This will be something that is synonymous with any web page. You're just taking a 2D website that you scroll up and down on, and now you're giving it dimension. Helio, that was me dancing. If you type dance, the prompt, all of us can dance. Lots of fun. You can also sit if you want to do that. But, yeah, so I think this is this is too funny. I think for me, these virtual worlds or the metaverse itself is kind of an overarching, full encompassing kind of concept. I think it's the future of how web pages will be more immersive, and HyperFi is a great example because it's a very easy to access, fully web-based environment that is multiplayer. So before I advertise too much about HyperFi, let's start playing around. I'm going to add a few things here, and we can start to spice up the scene a little bit. So there's a screen over here. Let's see. And this will show a little bit about me. This is a blog post I wrote about how I kind of got into the crypto scene. But what's cool about this is I can scroll around it and we can kind of go through the article all together, which I think is pretty cool feature. So my background I mentioned was in architecture, and yeah, so I used to work in an architecture firm as an urban designer, and got super curious into blockchain in about the 2016 era, and started to think about how we could use this to collectively create and build cities. To me, blockchain was a really cool tool to look at public spaces, how to democratize access to public space virtually and physically, and think about those kind of like overlaps between these two different dimensions that were being built. And so to me, it was a lot about equity, about access, about ownership. And what I did was a handful of these kind of social media cities, I called them, back in 2016, 17, where I would ask people to submit an image, and then I would kind of compile a virtual city out of these images from different places around the world. So that ultimately led to me kind of creating little kits of building blocks. And so if anyone's familiar with my artwork, I do a lot of modular architecture. And this is sort of the genesis or where that began. I did a project called Blocktown. This was on the Steam blockchain ages ago. And this was a way for me to kind of compile different building types based off of what people submitted, and people could also download and create their own and upload them to this kind of collective world. But yeah, now we're here, we're in it. This is one of these worlds that developed out of kind of a thesis for that, but we can actually collectively edit and build in this world ourselves. So I think one thing that'll be fun to try out together, I could talk about me for a while, but that's no fun. Let's do something more interesting. So let's add, actually, I can switch out this website, and let's put a sky in here. So one new tool that I really like is called Blockade Labs. Here, let's do this. It's a skybox generator that's super, super cool. So what we can do is type in a prompt, and this is an AI skybox generator app from Blockade Labs, which is so neat. So let's do reflective water with mountains in the background, and a pretty sky. That's not very imaginative, but let's see what it does. There are many things we could do for that, but let's see. So that'll generate, and while it generates, we can do some other things with the space. This might take a minute. We can take out the grid and add some water, which will be cool, or we can add a default skybox. Let's do that. So here's a default sky, which is actually really pretty. So now everything's a little brighter around here. That's good. Get a little bit of sunshine. But what we're going to do with this app is download the result from this and then use that to populate the sky around us. Oh, cool. There we go. That's pretty neat. So actually, anyone I think can click this. Oh no, I clicked generate again. All right, so we'll do one more. That's my mistake. I was trying to click download. Oh, I think I still can actually. Let's see. I can't click download yet. That's hilarious. Oh, that was really pretty, but we'll hopefully get another pretty one. But with Hyperfy, the skybox is a pretty cool feature because it just really breathes a lot of life into your build and what you create in your environment. I think, we have this grid here, but that's not super cool. So let's delete that, and we can add some water. It's nice. Very reflective, very pretty. I'm just going to update a few features here and slow down the distortion. But there's stuff like this that you can add that are just super quick. This is pretty. So got our skybox now. Do we like this one? I think we want to download this one. Cool. So let's do this. I'll go into the Sky app here, and I'm going through this super quickly just for the sake of just having fun here and dating this. Let's see. Voila. I'll hop quickly back into the comments here to see if you guys can see everything. If you have any questions, feel free to drop in the voice channel. You're welcome to, or to interrupt me once we get to a certain point here. I want to just populate this a little bit more. But if you walk around, check it out. We have a skybox here generated by AI using Stable Diffusion off of the prompt that we created in there. And this is now in a three-dimensional space that we can fly around. It gives us beautiful reflections. And yeah, it's this is just a lot faster than any method that I've come across before, and it's a great way to populate a scene really quickly. Now, kind of, since we have that solved, I'll leave that there for now. But what's interesting about like some of these tools, and I'll slowly build out this scene as we go through the kind of workshop here. But what I love about the metaverse is that it's a public space. This is a public space where all of us can kind of come together, have a discussion, have a discourse, learn from one another, dance in the same space, and share knowledge. Ultimately, I think this is a healthier and more dynamic environment for people to exchange information than something like Twitter. Twitter is the absolute worst. It's a terrible tool to actually have a discourse about something because it just incentivizes like manic creation and just discourse limited to whatever character count is on a tweet. So in my opinion, it's just not the right tool for us. I think we're dealing with Web 2 resources when it comes to building in Web 3. And for me, something like this, you can pop into a world in a few minutes, build out a cool scene, collaborate, work together on building a skybox that you like, and then all of a sudden you just have a more dynamic and interesting environment to talk in. We can chat on the side. We can even turn on voice here, so we don't even need Discord in theory. I could just turn this off and we can all chat inside here. But ultimately, I think this is a more dynamic and more interesting setting for all of us to have a discussion about, especially creativity. So to me, Metaverse is a new type of public space. It's an immersive environment where we can communicate with one another, and that's one of the driving factors of why I was so interested in this as an urban designer, because a lot of my work previously was about designing public spaces in cities and designing plazas and streetscapes and buildings that were about the public interface. So that to me, this is extremely like architectural and cool because I just this is a tremendous resource to have an immersive kind of interactive web scene. And you guys, all of you have very naked avatars here. I think we can change that. If you want to go to crypto avatars here, anyone can click. If you click this browser, I think it'll work for you. You can scroll around it. It doesn't have to be me. You can go in here and download an avatar of your choosing. These are all CC0 free to use avatars. Super cool. You guys can drop the link also in the chat if you want. So you can grab it if you're having trouble there. But there you can outfit your character. I'll change characters because I've been this guy for a little while. So this is actually what's called a VRM avatar. VRM is a really kind of interoperable file type for avatars. So I have a few here. I'm going to be a cool fridge for a moment. So my cool fridge it's an NFT. It's designed by the same folks in this backdrop here. called Crypto Avatars, and they're an incredible group really dedicated to looking at how you can create interoperability with avatars. They're really pioneers in that respect. So this is an NFT I acquired not too long ago, and it's a fridge. And, having a fridge is great in the metaverse because being a human is kind of strange when you can be anything else. Even having arms and limbs, it's just kind of odd. You might as well be an appliance. A breakdancing appliance is best, actually. That's important to have. But yeah, you can grab an avatar and feel free to drag and drop it into the screen that we're in. So if you're on a computer and you want to download a VRM file, you can drag and drop it in. Or if you see a little backpack icon here in the corner, this will connect to any avatar you have in your wallet if you're signed in. So you can swap to different ones that you have or might have in your wallet. But yeah, this is fun. Hi, Ava. I see a couple questions here. I just wanted to check in on the chat real quick. Is this world VR compatible? It absolutely is. So if you have a VR headset, you can go to the same address, hyperfi.io/UntitledXYZ, which I dropped in the chat. And it is VR compatible, which is insane. This is a world that is built without any third-party rendering engine. You'll see most metaverse projects are actually built using Unity, which is a rendering engine that allows you to do a lot of really amazing things. But it does come with some limitations, in my opinion, because it's not fully, you're kind of relying on a third party a little bit to build and to create. So what I like about HyperFi as one example is it's totally free to build in, update very quickly. The browser is super intuitive. And for me, I think this is incredibly useful. So we can actually do a few other things. Let me set up another screen here. Let's see. Click on an avatar by accident on this, but let's see which one I clicked. All right, let's open up one project I'm working on. Is called Mocha Rooms. So some of you guys might be familiar with this. Let's see. Sorry if I drop this on somebody. Further back. So Mocha Rooms are architectural NFTs. They're virtual galleries that you can populate with artwork and also deploy to virtual worlds like HyperFi. So to me, I really, let's see if we can get in here. So these are some of the rooms that I've been working on that we've recently listed in the Rooms dApp. Each one is an NFT. Each is a one-of-one kind of architectural object, and they're super cool because you can actually hop into them and load them. Let's see if we can get this one to load. I'm not sure if it'll actually work in this browser. Oh, there we go. So if everyone can see that, that's pretty cool. Here's the 3D NFT. And what I want to do is download this. Let's download. And then I'm going to drop it in the space that we're in, which will be pretty dope. So we can walk around it a little bit. Oh, I see. We have a Dynamite avatar here from Ava. Amazing. I love it. Now we're starting to spice things up. So let's see. I am going to upload one of these builds really quick so we can walk around some architecture, which I think will be a lot of fun. Let's see. All right. Okay. I'm dropping it in now. It might get a little wonky for a minute as I drop in this file. Here we go. Okay. Oh, We have some architecture over there in the distance. For the sake of the computer not crashing, I'm going to actually close some of these sites so that we get a little bit more here. So, all right, let's hop over to this building. This is a room in action here. So here's one of the galleries that I work on. This one, you can see there are different placeholders for NFTs. And it's designed for Giselle Flores, who I think might be a mentor you guys might have spoken with before. I'm not entirely sure, but Giselle is an old school crypto artist, really brilliant, amazing person. And we built this room for her and her collection. So she'll do some fun stuff with this in the future, I'm sure. But I like this build because it's a little bit a mix of conventional and unconventional when it comes to gallery building. Like, the artwork doesn't have to fit on a white wall per se. You can use different surfaces, you can use different angles. I think what we miss in a lot of the galleries that are created, in my opinion, in the metaverse scene is, there's a missed opportunity because we're really using a lot of white surfaces, white walls, and very predictable kind of spaces. I feel like there's such an opportunity for us to build differently and build different kind of unusual buildings that, what could exist, of course, virtually that doesn't exist physically. Like, how do you design to these different contexts? I think that's super important, and that's a really cool way for us to think differently about these spaces that we inhabit and what they can do for us and what they can do differently and how we can treat them differently. Right now, I think the NFT space is honestly a bit plagued by past patterns and past habits. I think a lot of how we treat the market, how we treat the content we create is a little bit too similar to what's been done before. And I think once we start to embrace some of these new tools like Hyperfi and other more immersive kind of mediums, then you can start to create more interesting stuff. I think we're all still designing for Instagram for the most part because it's got to fit within a nice little square that we can scroll by. And, that I feel like is, one part of the puzzle. But to me, I think these things can be a lot different and a lot more interactive and a lot more fun. So if you guys are familiar with the Museum of Crypto Art, this is rooms with Mocha. And I'll share, you guys should follow. Let's see. There you go. Here's a link to the Museum of Crypto Art. Highly recommend you guys give them a follow if you haven't already. I know many of you know them. I think I see Una in the crowd who was recently interviewed by them. And yeah, they're very much dedicated to the ethos of crypto art. And I do architecture with Mocha, and a lot of what we do focuses on thinking about how we preserve the crypto art ethos, that kind of freedom of spirit and freedom of creativity, and not so much focus on the market mechanics that drive a lot of what we call the NFT scene. And so there's a lot kind of to be uncovered and discovered there. And yeah, Mocha's. Yeah, folks, that was kind of a quick 30-minute rundown of Hyperfi specifically. I can do some silly things and run around here. But I guess what we could do, we could change the skybox a little bit, make these scene pop, or we can put in a new scene. But feel free to ask questions in the chat here. I'm trying to keep up toggling between the two. But yeah, VR compatible. It's super cool that you can do both VR and web in an app like this. As you guys know, there are many different virtual world applications. There are the big four, you could say. The big four would be Decentraland, would be Somnium Space, Crypto Voxels, and Sandbox. Those have been kind of the big four metaverse apps, or at least blockchain native metaverse apps over the last couple years. But since then, there have been many, many new worlds that have popped up to kind of offer a different or alternative way of interacting, of treating 3D files, of modeling. And HyperFi recently came out only really in the last few months, since last summer, I think. But the team here has been working on this for a while. But essentially, each world offers a little bit of a different approach. There's, for example, Mona, which is just beautiful, Monaverse. Let's see, I'll share in the chat here. Monaverse is really neat. They use Unity as a rendering engine for their builds, but with it, you can really accomplish some incredibly intricate, beautiful works, and they also tokenize spaces and avatars that you can collect. It's somewhat similar to HyperFi in some ways, but HyperFi is all web-based. So it's a little bit different in how you manage and develop the environment itself. Monaverse is another alternative to the kind of big four. And there's also Arium, which I know VCA has used before for different shows. Arium is really beautiful. Maybe Arium is a closer kind of comparison to HyperFi, in my opinion. Yeah, I think each world offers its own benefit and drawback. I think if you're looking for high fidelity, high detail, really kind of like nuanced design within an environment, I think you're going to want to go with a version like Monaverse or Somnium Space that can give you really high quality detail in a build, versus something like HyperFi, which is maybe more limited to however many megabytes. But that said, HyperFi does offer you can do a lot really quickly, and it's pretty dope. Something like Decentraland is like a world where, and we can just pull this up on the screen. Why not? What am I doing talking to you? I should be an avatar of action here. See if it's work. I can pull up all these guys here. Oh no, Decentraland doesn't like it when you link to their page. Maybe the docs. Sometimes the app doesn't like it. Decentraland is cool. There's a little Decentraland blurb. But you'll see with Decentraland, there are, let's see, it's a world or land-based metaverse. So one thing, let's do content creators. Are there any tutorials? Oops. Oh, it takes me out to a different thing. Let's try looking at the marketplace. If it'll, no, that's funny. It doesn't like it. Regardless, I'll send you a link here. This is some of the drawbacks of not of doing everything virtually in this way. But let me share a link here. Decentraland is interesting because it's a virtual world model. Everyone has a plot of land, and that's how they create. So you basically buy a plot of land, and then you can create on it. I think there are benefits and drawbacks to that. It's pretty cool to have like a virtual neighborhood, but it's also tricky because in my eyes, it's like if you have virtual land all over again, what are we going to repeat the same mistakes that we have in the real world? Is it just going to become more expensive for people to purchase? I think that's a big problem in the metaverse model right now is weighing the pros and cons of having an explicit scarce land model, because then it becomes less inclusive, it becomes less, it limits some interaction, and it kind of enforces people to speculate a little bit too much, I think, on the price and value of things, which honestly then pushes builders out. because you can't afford it. Let me hop back into. I know Una's typing here, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to hop in the voice and you can ask. This is an open discussion, so if you have any questions, feel free to chime in. This is sort of an AMA as well. Una says, love the rooms and very much agree with the idea that physical digital spaces are independent of one another versus spaces that should mirror one another. I found when introducing people to digital art spaces, it's giving people two new experiences at once, architecture experience and the art. Questions are, when you design a space, how much are you considering the placement of the art within the space? And another question, what do you think will be the shift that will make it easier for people to get the metaverse experience? Great questions. For me, I love for the architecture to play with the art. I think with rooms, there's a bit of a thesis behind rooms that, the architecture should be in conversation with the art. And why are rooms so expensive? Rooms are expensive. I'm sorry. Rooms are sold basically for 1 ETH a piece. Is kind of the lowest price point that they are, because they support the museum. MoCA is a nonprofit foundation, one of the few actual nonprofits in the NFT space, and as such, we can't sell art. This is kind of like our fundraiser that we do continuously to help the museum run, help us do different programming. So we do these room sales, and this helps keeps us going. But I'd say for 1 ETH, getting a one-of-one architectural room like that, I think is pretty compelling. But compared to 1,000 editions of the same image, but to each their own. But I think for me, architecture has a really interesting role when it comes to digital art. I think it's a character in the space just as much as the art is. And its job is to kind of challenge two things. It's to challenge the physical counterpart of architecture to do something different than what would be made physical. But it's also there to kind of elevate and give a different context to the art that isn't a white wall. I think we can have galleries with white walls. They work perfectly well in the real world. Us to rebuild exactly that in a virtual setting makes no sense to me. I think it's an opportunity for us to break well past that and create something different. So in what I build with architecture, I think it's a chance to create something a little bit more just different. It's not better or worse. It's just a different thing. So one question here. The next one was, what do you think will be the shift that will make it easier for people to get the metaverse experience? I think it's a great question. I think there's a huge user experience barrier for most people, as you know, with NFTs. Crypto, there's a big barrier. There's a lot of language kind of baked into these hot ticket terms. It's just, there's so much to unpack when you say the word metaverse. There's a lot of skepticism. I think there needs to be a very compelling, basically, what I just showed today was trying to prove that you can set up a website in the same speed as you can set up a virtual world. That's my hope. So in my eyes, if you can set up a virtual world for the same cost and the same time commitment as setting up a website in 2D, I think then we have adoption, or we have an opportunity for these things to be comparable and for growth to happen in a virtual setting. That to me, I think is like a huge barrier, is simply the cost and the time commitment. So what we just did is, we set up a virtual world from nothing into this immersive, funky scene with an AI skybox that costs nothing, that we generated in a few seconds. And we also downloaded a room, which are all CC0, by the way. So while they do cost, they cost 1 ETH to purchase, you can download them all via the room's website for free if they're CC0. So that I think is pretty neat because a lot of the stuff, my hope is it becomes more accessible and attainable. I think like there's so much of the stuff to cost what it does, I think is a mistake, because it really just, oh, his voice interrupted. Let's see. Hear me now? Oh. Aaron, if you can hear me. All right, I see thumbs up.
Yep, we can hear you fine. Or at least I can hear you fine.
Maybe there's a little glitch out there in the virtual realm.
Irina, it is possible that your network might be a little slower and it's glitching a little bit.
I closed some tabs just to be safe. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting challenge. The adoption challenge is always something that we've maybe in Web 2. Yeah, the adoption challenge is always something that is the biggest hurdle here. I think unfortunately, we're enveloped in a technology in a world that is so nuanced. It takes so long, as you guys know, to navigate it. It has the biggest user experience problem of most technologies I've seen. Like the fact that we all have to get together in these calls to even get oriented to some of these topics, that's crazy. Like we're onboarding by 16 people at a time. That's insane. Like that's a huge bottleneck, and I think a major problem in Web3 or in the blockchain scene as a whole, because so much of it is word of mouth and experience to experience. Um, that's a big issue, but my hope is experiences like this that are just more compelling than a website, I think will convert people over to just a better, healthier thing. I much prefer having a meeting in HyperFi than I do on Twitter Spaces. I think something like that is just more interesting. And it can't be that the NFT has value and that's the compelling reason. It has to be that it's just more fun. It's more interesting. Oh, Helio, my voice sounds like a robot. Oh no. Let's see. Do I still sound like a robot? Maybe if I dance, it'll help. Oops, that's how I dance. Sorry if I sound robotic. Let's see. Actually, just did something weird. Back. Chat. Here we go. Yeah, if I sound like a robot, maybe I've just been in the metaverse for too long, guys. I'm sorry. I've been stuck in this virtual world dancing as a refrigerator for way too long. And I'm doomed. You all can escape still. There's a chance for you all to make a different life choice than I have. Um, but yeah, I think it's a really exciting time to be an architect because I think we can build all of these different experiences together. For art, I think there's an opportunity to showcase art and have it react to these virtual experiences in a different way. And in a way, I think that in what I was saying before, architecture is like a character in among the art. I think those characters can then begin to you can shape different stories, build different narratives, try different things out. Um, and yeah, I think that's an incredible opportunity to do things a little bit differently than we've done in the past. Boria, do you have any? Ooh, Ava, that's such a cool picture. I'm gonna steal that. We should do a selfie, by the way, just before we get too off topic. Let's go over here in front of. Stand up on the side. If you guys want to come over this way, we could sit on the stairs. Yay! go over here. We could just, if you type, you don't have to, but I'm going to type sit. We can be over here. That's my refrigerator sitting. I've never seen a refrigerator sit, but I think that's as close as we can get. There's some stragglers coming on. If anyone wants to be in the selfie, swing on by the stairs over here. If you type /sit, similar to the dance command. Yeah, awesome. Yeah. This is great. See, this is where the magic, this is really, people talk about all the different fancy features. I think /sit is one of the most underrated features of the metaverse. I'm going to take a picture. Amazing. We have one more coming in the distance. Come over. Yeah. This is so funny. But yeah, I think I do meetings in HyperFi. I do meetings in virtual settings. I've done meetings in Somnium Space, Decentraland, elsewhere. I think it's a more engaging setting. It gives a little bit more dimension. And what's cool about apps like this is, I could give any one of you permissions and you can start modifying the space yourself. If you want to try that, please type in, let's see. Please type in your ETH address that you're logged in with in the chat down here, and I'd be happy to give you builder settings. And then what you can do is start changing stuff like the sky, which would be cool. I'll change it just for fun as we're talking, because this one's pretty. That. Switch out the water, and let's add some terrain. But, stuff like this, I think is just super fun. We could build collectively together, and I think that's just like a really valuable thing. See, now we're not on water; we're in the opposite environment. We're in the desert. Love how you can edit this world in real time alongside others, which is just like crazy cool. Very dance worthy. But I'm hopping back to the chat channel here. DJ Cart, Danielle, no worries. There's no such thing as awkwardly standing in the metaverse. It's anyone can do anything they want. No such thing. But yeah, so the world itself, Erin, the HyperFi scene that we see here is actually an NFT itself, as is the room, the gallery that you see in front of you. So I think, what we're approaching is a really cool moment where there's going to be just so many ways for NFTs to interact with one another. And you can create these like beautiful, interesting, intricate environments. But yeah, guys. If there are any other questions, feel free to shout or interrupt me in the voice call here in Discord, or ask. You can ask in 3 places: the Residency voice channel, the chat within HyperFi, or on voice here. I just like making it really complicated. Andres says, I don't know if it was mentioned, what tool are you using to build 3D in this metaverse? So the best tool for this metaverse is probably Blender. Each of these files are GLB files. So I'll just type that. So you can use Blender. Blender is a great, really open source, easy tool to, not an easy tool, but it's an open source 3D modeling tool to create files, and you can very quickly drag and drop them into this world. Super fun and easy to do that. I think it's a great way to to build. I use personally a mix of Blender, but also I use Rhinoceros. I'm an old school architect. I was trained as an architect. I cannot escape Rhino. I just love it because it's precise. In my opinion, Blender is not always precise. And I like really clean angles, as you can see in some of my stuff. I try to keep them clean. So I love Rhino for that. Rhino is unfortunately not free. But yeah, okay. ETLB knows if you're a Rhino person, you're probably you know what you're doing. Rhino is a really elegant and great 3D modeling software for products, like industrial design, for architecture, for parametric design. There are a lot of really amazing things you can create in Rhino. And then, of course, what I do, my typical flow is I export it as a file compatible with Blender, and then do some adjustments in Blender, and then export as a GLB file. And still, modeling for the metaverse is a tricky creature because there's no universal modeling standard. You'd think there would be like a universal JPEG for NFTs. You'd think it would be the same for NFTs or for metaverse builds, but it's not. You have FBX files, GLB files, Unity files, OBJ files, all these different things. And I anticipate that over the next few years, we're going to see file standards. It's going to be a little bit more common to see, oh, like here's a GLB standard for these metaverses. And it'll be easier to navigate that. But we're still early, folks. So for now, every world has their own rules. I love that TNT on the move. Perfect. That's so good. Isn't the sky great? Like some of these skyboxes are just awesome. So cool. But yeah, I think this is so funny seeing everyone dancing. I think there are going to be more emotes coming out too soon. So you can do different dances, which would be sweet. I'm going to take a couple screenshots just for kicks and giggles here. But yeah, the metaverse, kind of, in closing, because we have a few minutes here, like, this is a really cool time to be learning these tools. I think what we're headed towards is a more immersive web, and this is just one example, but a pretty compelling one that I think is going to be more widely accepted. And yeah, I think you guys are at a perfect moment now where you're experiencing getting immersed in this stuff, learning this stuff. Many of you are experts in your craft far beyond me in my craft. And so you all are pros in your own fields. And it's a really interesting time to experiment with this technology. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to just try it out, dedicate a block of time to just sort of dig in, hop in a Discord like the Hyperfy Discord, ask a few questions, and just give it a go. And I think that kind of experimentation will really lead to interesting things in your own work, your own practice, and what you create yourselves. I think there's a lot to be, I've learned a tremendous amount just from doing that, hopping into the chat room, asking a few questions, and then getting rolling. And yes, of course, you can ask a question.
Hey, hello. Since I hear you as a robot, I was trying to understand the answer. My name is Irina, and I'm dancer choreographer, and I create digital artwork for as NFT. So, being an NFT artist, of course, I am interested in metaverses and Web3 and all this interesting stuff. And of course, I'm thinking about creating a performance in Web3 in Metaverse. And now I'm searching for the ways how to bring more how to say, right, like more natural dance movements to the even to the avatars, and how to create live performance in Metaverse and maybe pre-record it. So like I'm searching the way how to do this, and since I'm not a technical person, I'm not a digital artist. I collaborate with digital artists. So yeah, I want to know your opinion of developing and searching for the ways how we can do this. Yes, thank you so much.
Of course, that's an excellent question. Irina, sorry, I called you Irin, I think. Yeah, great question. I think there's a huge possibility for dance and performative dance in these virtual settings. I think, we have the \dance command, but that is not the limit. I think if you're in this space with a VR headset on, you have more nuanced movement that you can achieve with your hands. If you have a full kind of suit, a VR suit, you can achieve a lot of motion capture and different kind of ways of, articulating your craft. There are good examples of this in Somnium space in particular. There have been a lot of dance performances. I'm trying to find, I think, here's a tweet I'll share. I don't know if this is, let's see. Let me share this. In this tweet, there's an artist called Ollie or Oli. She has been doing a lot of kind of cross reality performances over the years. So she was very early in Somnium space. And I know she had done a lot of kind of like dance performances and different ways of kind of crossing realities, which I thought was really, really cool. And this is in a space, I think, on display in Dubai right now. But I believe in Somnium space, you get a lot of, you can do a lot in VR. It's a really cool app. It does take a little bit to kind of like download the client for it, log into it, because it is a pretty advanced VR application. But Somnium space, I would really strongly recommend exploring, hopping into their Discord, and then looking at some of the performances that people do there. I've been to concerts in Somnium space and other things that are just like mind blowing. There was a guitarist at an art opening that I went to a couple years ago in Somnium. That was crazy cool. I'm sorry if I have a robot voice while I'm saying all this. Let me know if you can't hear me.
Yeah, I try to understand your voice from Web3 in my Web2 reality. Thank you so much for this tweet. I will check deeply later after our lesson. And yeah, I agree with you. I feel like there are so many possibilities for this like performance opportunity, because there are 360, there are 3D, there are virtual reality, and there are so much more than in physical reality for dancing actually. And yeah, I feel this field is unknown kind of, like at least for me. And yeah, so I will be appreciate I will appreciate if you will maybe share some more information, or maybe artists who work with this, or maybe you have some experience or some ideas. So I really want to move in this direction also, because I love exhibitions in Metaverse. It's so beautiful, so interesting, and I love how architecture looks like in Metaverse. It's so like futuristic usually, and it's about gravity also. There are no laws of gravity. Like, I mean, we can use or not to use these gravity laws. So it's so interesting for me as a mover and dancer. And yeah, thank you so much for your answers and tweet.
Yeah, Irina, thank you so much. I think you're absolutely right. This is the fact that there aren't many examples yet mean that you can be the example. You can carve this territory, this kind of like these different precedents. I think there's tremendous opportunity in the performing arts to explore virtual options. Really think there's exciting opportunity there, and as the technology improves, the opportunities will improve too. I think it is a testament to how early we are in a lot of this, because this is all very new. And if I can only do one dance command right now, and in a lot of these metaverse apps, you can only do a handful of dancing commands. I think Somnium is by far the most advanced when it comes to virtual reality expression and using like a full body tracksuit that you can dance with. I have a friend, Renee, who some of you might know. He's the CTO at the Museum of Crypto Art. Is a full body suit that he uses with different sensors around his room, and with it he records some crazy stuff. Just so cool. I don't know of many other performing artists. There are a handful with Insomnium, and I would recommend I'll send a link to just Somnium Space, their Twitter.
Yeah, thank you for Somnium. Maybe if it's okay, I will write you to ask maybe more questions or your advice about what can be my next steps in this field. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Anyone, feel free to message me or message or ping me in the cohort chat, and I'll keep notifications on so I can help answer. Because I know some of you might have similar questions too. What's the name of a colleague that works with sensors? Ooh, if you want to follow somebody who knows the most about virtual worlds and metaverse stuff and all things NFTs, Renee has been around so long. He is you think I'm way too deep into this stuff, dancing as a refrigerator for an hour? No. Renee is in it, and he's an incredible guide and source of knowledge for these things. I'll try to find a tweet from him about the different sensors that he was using for some of his Somnium Space explorations. But really cool stuff. If there are any other questions, feel free to ask, type, whatever you like. I'm gonna do a little bit of a plug. I haven't tweeted this yet, but let's see. Share it let's see. I'm going to I'll just post a gallery project that is now live in Dubai. This is a project I did called Tessera, and it's a cool group show with some artists that you guys might know, like Coldy, Brian Brinkman, Monaris, Colborn, Raphael. Really great show, and it's live right now at the Dubai Art Fair, so you guys can hop into that and you might see some people wandering around it. But yeah, actually, I might switch my screen to that. Let's see. I'm going to switch to that out of this world, if that's cool with folks. Let's see if you can see. I think you can still see this one. But let's do a little walk around that to kind of finish out the class, if you guys want. But yeah, this is a much more kind of complex build. Very neat. Let me face upwards in case people can't log in. But yeah, here's a good view. But yeah, I think there's there's a lot of opportunity here, and I think groups like this, what you guys are doing with VCA, it's a really great way to get immersed quickly in all of these different topics. There's no other way to do it really than other than trying it, just giving it a go. And I think right now, unfortunately, the price point to acquire virtual land is still a big hangup. I think that's unfortunate because everyone should just have the ability to do it. And like to buy a plot in Decentraland, if it costs thousands of dollars, that's no fun. Hyperfi does cost a little bit to get a world, like the one you see here, but it's 0.09 ETH instead of like 2 ETH, and I think that's a step in the right direction for sure. You guys have any other questions? And if not, that's fine. We can part early, and I'm happy to help answer questions if you have them, if they come up.
You did mention where we can look for you to ask questions. So I encourage anyone who is interested in more about anything mentioned today, just don't hesitate, don't be shy. Just contact Kirk and he will help out the best way he can. In that case, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Kirk, for spending the time with us and showing us these amazing tools and this and for this virtual trip in the metaverse. I'm sure that everyone is extremely excited about trying some of these things, and you make them look so easy, and I hope that they are for everyone. But as I mentioned before, guys, if you have any troubles, just reach out for help. That's the good thing about this environment. And thank you all for coming, and thank you, Kirk. And have a lovely day, night, evening, morning, wherever you are in the world.
Thank you all so much. It was great. It was a ton of fun.